Today, we're diving into the story of the Great Train Robbery, a crime so legendary, people still call it a near-perfect crime. This was a heist so bold, so carefully put together, that its story is still talked about, even decades later. So let's set the scene. It's 3 in the morning, August 8th, 1963. A Royal Mail train is making its way down a quiet, deserted track when it suddenly stops for a mysterious red light. Imagine you're the driver, Jack Mills. You know this signal should be green. Right away, you know something is very, very wrong.
But here's the kicker. This wasn't your average mail train. On board was a staggering amount of cash. We're talking the equivalent of 67 million pounds today. So why on earth was all that money on that train on that night? Well, it was no coincidence. Somebody on the inside had to have known.
Which brings us to our first section, the flawless plan. Because you see, this heist was made possible by 2 once-in-a-lifetime tips. No way was this some spur-of-the-moment thing. Oh no. This was the result of months of super careful planning, all built on inside info that turned what should have been impossible into a real, tangible target.
The mastermind behind the whole operation was a guy named Bruce Reynolds, and he knew this was way too big to do alone. So he put together what was basically the Avengers of the criminal underworld. We're talking a gang of over 15 people. He even brought in a rival crew, the South Coast Raiders, for one very specific reason. They were the experts when it came to train. Now, what were they after? Their eyes were on one thing and one thing only: the High Value Packages Coach, or the HVP Coach. You can basically think of this thing as a bank vault on wheels. It was the special car the Royal Mail used to move massive amounts of cash around the country. This was the jackpot. And the whole plan, the entire thing, was built on 2 absolutely crucial tips from an inside man. And to this day, nobody knows who he was. Okay, tip number 1, the regular HVP coach, the one with all the security, was broken. It was replaced with a reserve coach that had, get this, no alarm system at all. And tip number 2, because it was right after a bank holiday, the coach was absolutely stuffed with cash. We're talking nearly 10 times the normal amount. This wasn't just luck, this was a game changer. All right, so the plan is set. The once-in-a-lifetime opportunity is right there for the taking. The gang is in position. Let's get into it. The heist of the century. Here's exactly how it all went down, step by step. Okay, everything happens incredibly fast. At 3:03 a.m., the train hits their rigged signal and stops. Just a few minutes later, the assistant driver gets out to check the trackside phone, finds the lines are dead, and bam, he's captured. Then, the gang swarms the engine room. The driver, Jack Mills, is hit over the head with an iron bar. By 3:25, they've unhooked the coaches they need and are moving them down the line. And by 3:40 a.m., it's over. They've loaded the cash and are gone. The whole thing took just over 30 minutes. But you know, even the best plans have problems. And this one hit a huge snag. See, the gang brought along their own getaway driver, a retired train engineer. But here's the thing. When he got into the cab of this modern train, he just froze. He had absolutely no clue how to work the controls. All of a sudden, their perfect plan is about to fall apart. So what was their solution? You're not gonna believe this. In a crazy, desperate, and deeply ironic twist, they had to use the very man they had just knocked out. They forced the injured driver, Jack Mills, to get up and drive the train himself to their getaway spot at Bridge Go Bridge. Just incredible. And the amount of money they were moving, it was just insane. They unloaded 120 mail bags of cash. The total weight? 2.5 tons. Let that sink in for a second. 2.5 tons of money. They were working so fast, they actually had to leave some bags behind because they just ran out of time. So they did it. They got away clean, with a mountain of cash. It looked like the perfect crime. But then, it all started to unravel. And it was because of one tiny, careless mistake. Just a few words. Let's talk about that in this section, one careless whisper. As the gang was leaving, one of them turned to the postal workers they tied up and said, "Don't move for 30 minutes. Just a simple threat, right? Something to scare them into staying put and giving the gang more of a head start. Or so they thought. Well, that little warning backfired, big time. Because when the police heard about the 30 minutes, they realized it wasn't just a random number. It was a clue. It told them the gang's hideout had to be within a 30-minute drive of the bridge. Just like that, a massive, countrywide search shrunk down to a manageable 50-kilometer radius. That one sentence was their undoing.
So this much smaller search area eventually led the police right to the gang's hideout, and that's where they found one of the most famous clues in the history of crime. Let's get into it, the Monopoly board clue, and how a board game blew this case wide open. The gang was listening to a police scanner, and when they heard the search was getting close, they completely panicked. They quickly split up the money and decided to bolt from their hideout, a place called Leatherslade Farm, way sooner than they'd planned. They even paid a guy to burn the whole farm down to get rid of the evidence. But, there's no honor among thieves. The guy just pocketed the cash and disappeared, leaving the farm untouched for the police to find.
So when the police finally raided the farm, it was like a treasure trove of evidence. They found everything. Empty mailbags, the getaway truck with a sloppy new paint job, food, supplies, but the smoking gun? It was a Monopoly board. Turns out, to celebrate their huge score, the gang had a little game night using the stolen money, and they left their fingerprints all over it.
And this is where their criminal pasts came back to haunt them. See, these guys weren't rookies. Almost all of them had criminal records. And what does that mean? It means their fingerprints were already sitting in a police database. The investigators took the prints from the Monopoly game, ran them through the system, and boom, direct matches. One by one, the robbers were identified.
After that, it was only a matter of time. The police net closed in fast. But the story isn't just about the crime and the capture. The aftermath was a mix of harsh justice and real human tragedy.
So, what happened to the gang? Well, out of the main crew, the police managed to catch almost all of them. 14 were arrested. Just 2 of them actually got away and managed to escape the huge manhunt.
And when they went to trial, the judge threw the book at them. We're talking seriously harsh sentences. Most of the main players got 30 years behind bars. The message was loud and clear. You pull a stunt like this, you're gonna pay for it.
So when you look at the final scorecard, it's pretty stark. The gang, most of them got locked away for decades. The inside man, his identity is still a total mystery. And what about the driver, Jack Mills? Well, his life was changed forever, and not for the better.
And this really is the heartbreaking part of the story. A lot of people turn the robbers into these kinds of folk heroes, but Jack Mills, he never recovered. The head injury, the psychological trauma from that night, it was too much. He couldn't work anymore, and he died just 7 years after the robbery. It's a powerful reminder that behind this famous crime, there was a very real human cost.
So here we are, over 60 years later. The money's long gone, the robbers served their time, and their story is now a part of legend. But there's one giant question that still hangs over this whole thing, completely unanswered. Who was the inside man? Who was the person that gave them the 2 tips that made this whole incredible heist possible? That right there is the biggest mystery of the Great Train Robbery.